IEBC is clearing governors and MPs, of course, as the campaigns ahead of the August 8th general election heat up in the country. This morning as well, we'll be focusing on President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, who will be in Ol Kalou, and Nyandarua as well. Our Victor Ogale will be keeping tabs on the president and his deputy. We also expect, like I mentioned, several aspirants to submit their papers to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So we have our Elvis Kosgei in Eldoret. And then we also have our Rashid Ronald in Kisumu. And then in Nairobi, we have Patrick Amimo, who's keeping an eye on Peter Kenneth. Peter Kenneth hopes to be the next governor in the county of Nairobi. So those are just some of the stories that we're focusing on for you this morning. But the key story that we're focusing on, even as we focus on aspirants giving their papers to the IEBC, is on Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya. Remember, a couple of days ago, a parliamentary committee recommended that he be barred from holding office. He refused to appear before the senatorial committee. So let's see whether or not he'll get cleared by the IEBC. Remember, that meeting had representation from the IEBC and office of the Director of Public Prosecution. So let's wait and see how that plays out. So away from the IEBC and the clearance of some of the aspirants, we are also focusing on President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy. He will be in Nyandarua and Nakuru counties, accompanied by his deputy William Ruto. And still on campaigns, NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga is expected in Kisumu for a consultative meeting with area leaders. He's expected to meet the Nyanza presidential campaign team on the ground. So it is the final day for candidates seeking to run as governors and members of the National Assembly to submit papers to the IEBC. This will set the stage for the IEBC to gazette the names ahead of the printing of ballot papers. Among those expected to submit papers is Nairobi aspirant Peter Kenneth, Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar, and Deputy Speaker Joyce Laboso. Allow me now to bring in my colleague Patrick Amimo, who's at Kasarani. We're waiting for Peter Kenneth, who hopes to be the next governor, county of Nairobi. Just a couple of days ago, Peter Kenneth picked former Harambee Stars winger Dan Shikanda as his running mate. Amimo, what time do you expect Peter Kenneth to be there?
Thank you, Linda. As it were, today is the last day that the governors, those who intend to contest as governors, will be seeking clearance as IEBC now prepares for the August 8th polls. Today we expect at least 4 candidates here, and Peter Kenneth, already his supporters are already at Kasarani because he's expected to present his papers any time now for clearance. The other person we expect here is also former Speaker Kenneth Marende, and also the other candidate is Christopher Mokaya, who is an independent candidate, and also the 4th candidate we expect here is Shem Owaga of the Republican Liberty Party. Yesterday we saw at least the IEBC here clear 6 aspirants for Nairobi gubernatorial race. We had Dr. Evans Kidero, we had Mike Sonko was cleared. We also had at least other independent candidates, and also we saw today Miguna was cleared yesterday, but he's yet to pick his certificate. I'm told that he'll be expected here to pick his clearance certificate later in the day. But as of now, we're expecting Peter Kenneth, who is already, his supporters, I can say his supporters are already at the Kasarani Sports Complex. They are arriving, and we expect him to just get into the room anytime now. Linda?
And yesterday, of course, we saw Kidero and Sonko cleared by the IEBC, and immediately they got their clearance. Trust me, the gloves were off. Like, Sonko went on the screen and made some very serious allegations against Kidero, and Kidero also saying Sonko does not have the ability to run the county of Nairobi. On what basis do you think, and let's speculate a little bit, that Peter Kenneth is going to sort of sell his candidature from now on?
Yes, we saw just this week Peter Kenneth also introduced, when he was unveiling Dan Shikanda, he said that they'll do an aggressive campaign and theirs will be a door-to-door campaign. They'll say that they'll get and reach to the grassroots and do their campaigns. They say that financial muscle will not be a major determinant factor to them, but they intend to get to every person out there on the ground and convince them to vote for them. They also had some scathing attacks that the governor, the current governor, they say that Nairobi County, despite having received more than 30 billion shillings, there's nothing to show for it that huge amount of money has been spent in the county, because they say service delivery is waning. We also saw the Peter Kenneth attack Senator Mike Sonko. He said he failed in his oversight role to ensure that the money disbursed to the county from both the national level and the local revenue is put to good use. So we expect the same mentality from Peter Kenneth as he seeks clearance from IEBC and to launch his official campaign for Nairobi. So that is what you expect here, Linda.
Mimo, listen, yesterday we saw, I know you've mentioned a little bit about Miguna. You're saying he's set to come and place his clearance form, but then putting in mind what we saw yesterday, I think he presented his papers in the wrong format. Was he given a chance to bring them in the right format? What is going on with Miguna?
Yes, as for Miguna, yesterday there was an issue with a list of supporters where he presented it in JPEG format. But according to the IEBC, they want the list of supporters to be in Excel format to allow them to facilitate their system or software to read the signatures and verify whether those are real registered voters. That's why they had to comply with the Excel. And Miguna yesterday, by evening at around 4:30 or 5 in the evening yesterday, he complied and brought his list in Excel format. So that one is in the correct format. He has complied on that, but now he's yet to pick his certificate officially. So that's why we expect him today to come and pick his certificate from the returning officer at Kasarani. Linda?
Okay, Hamimo, thank you. We'll try and see if we can cross over to you later on as we go on with this bulletin, especially when Peter Kenneth gets there. And of course, Miguna as well. Those are key players in the county of Nairobi. Patrick Hamimo from Kasarani, thank you so much. Allow me now to cross over to Eldoret and speak to Elvis Kosgei. Elvis is on the footsteps of the governor there, Jackson Mandagor, who's also expecting to be cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Elvis, can you hear me?
Yes, Linda, we're expecting the incumbent Jackson Kiplagat Mandago to appear before the IEBC at a place called Kenmosa around 11. Also, Kapseret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi is set to appear before the IEBC to submit his nomination papers to the IEBC. Also, we have Keses candidate Swarup Mishra, who is also at around 11. He will appear in a place called Jamboni. Also, we have Kevin Okwara in Tarbo constituency. Some of the issues that we'll be concentrating is that recently the Kapseret Member of Parliament, Oscar Sudi, had integrity issues. So we are waiting to see how things will develop there at the IBC Center, Linda.
Elvis, Oscar Sudi's case is a little bit peculiar because I understand he has no KCSE certificate, no KCP certificate. As a matter of fact, there are all indications that in terms of his academic qualifications, he went up to a certain class. What are you hearing on the ground?
Linda, this one that it's interesting because it's a matter that is in the Nairobi law courts, and they are waiting to see how it will develop, because it is allegedly that he used dubious means to acquire his academic papers. But we're waiting to see how the officials of the IEBC will be able to manage this, since Oscar Sudi recently, he said that he went to school, and those who are saying that he did not go to school, then they'll get a shock of the year. Linda.
Let's wait and see if they can get that shock of the year. And let's wait and see if IEBC will indeed clear Oscar Sudi, and whether or not he'll be able to provide his academic qualifications when he meets the IEBC members this morning. The picture on your screen is of Peter Kenneth presenting his papers to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. He's one of the aspirants we were expecting this morning to present his papers to the IEBC. Remember, a couple of days ago, he picked former Harambee Stars winger Dan Shikanda as his running mate. And there has been a conversation on whether or not he will be able to unseat Evans Kidero. Remember, a couple of days ago, when President Uhuru Kenyatta was on a Meet the People tour here in Nairobi, he sort of endorsed Mike Sonko, at some point letting him speak to the people of Nairobi. And there are those analysts who say by Uhuru Kenyatta endorsing Sonko, there's very little hope for Peter Kenneth. Let's wait and see how that plays out as the days go by. Remember, he's running as an independent candidate, and at some point he was aggrieved on how the nomination process was carried out by the Jubilee Party, and that is why he decided to run as an independent candidate. And I remember as well, while he was talking on why he's decided to be an independent candidate, he also mentioned that by running as an independent candidate and indeed setting that precedent, they are giving other aspirants in upcoming general election, and even several years from now, the option of not being confined to a particular party when you want to run for an elective post, basically saying they are giving more avenues for politicians in the country. So let's wait and see how this now goes on. So we have the incumbent Evans Kidero, and you have Mike Sonko, you have Peter Kenneth, you have Miguna, all being cleared by the IEBC. Of course, we're waiting to see if Peter Kenneth will be cleared by the IEBC. And then, trust me, like I mentioned, the gloves will be off. It will be who is best placed to represent the people of Nairobi.
For the seconder, proposer and second. Can we go one by one so that we do it in the correct format? So that's done. You keep them together. Okay. Yeah. You want copies for this guy? These are 2,000. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The handsome.
Oh.
This one, very handsome.
Any clearance from the I don't remember. The statutory declaration.
Peter Kenneth there giving his papers to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Of course, he's contesting the Nairobi governorship position. He hopes to unseat Kidero in the August 8th general election. Let's wait and see whether or not the IEBC will clear him or Patrick Amimo is on the ground for us. It's a big day for aspirants in this country, and we have our reporters stationed all over the country keeping an eye on that for us. Let's have a conversation about this in studio on the clearance of several candidates. This morning, I have Kavins Owidi, who's a political analyst, in studio with me. Joshua Kipto, who's an advocate, is also in studio. He'll be walking in any moment from now. Kavins, thank you for joining us on News Center this morning. What are your thoughts about the clearance that is currently going on with IEBC? We are speaking to Elvis Koske, who says there's an aspirant who hopes to be a member of parliament, does not have academic qualifications. And then we had that list that was released by civil societies, and a good number of people who are mentioned in that list have so far been cleared by the IEBC. As a matter of fact, we're waiting for to see whether or not Oparanya will be cleared by the IEBC. Remember the case that he had before the Senate the other day. What are your thoughts?
I think it's not about just thinking. It's about what the law really says about integrity of candidates. A person has to be found by a competent court of law to have a problem with Chapter 6. So these people, all of them will be cleared until the courts unclear them. Regarding the certificates, I think IEBC does not have the capacity to investigate which certificate is genuine and which one is not genuine. So what is going to happen is, after they have all been cleared, now the bodies, higher education law, higher Commission for Higher Education, and all these other bodies can now start their work and see this certificate that was presented by this candidate is suspect. Can we investigate it and find out? And in such a case, besides being disqualified also, it's also a criminal offense to present documents that are not genuine.
But surely, why didn't we do this before the nomination?
Now it's those bodies that have to explain why this wasn't done.
Because you're taking people like 20 steps back, you know.
That is what's going to happen. And in fact, some counties or constituencies may remain without candidates. Because if you find there were two and both of them have fake certificates, then, we have no candidate left. So that is very possible that is going to happen in some counties and some constituencies. Though I think I have to put this squarely on the table of bodies that were supposed to have investigated.
Because they should have done that like a couple of months before.
Like the education minister, the cabinet secretary has been talking about this again and again, but nothing tangible has been placed on the table. this is common in Kenya because they also don't want to put a rule that is sweeping. It may sweep some of their very close friends and relatives.
No, but if the rules have to apply, then they have to apply to everyone, not just...
No, in Kenya, things are very different. They are done according to who is my person and who is not. So it is going to be possible that we could have a constituency. Because I know in some of these strongholds, there are places where a candidate has no opponent.
Okay, so they have to, that is
So
all they have.
in the event that somebody has to be thrown out on integrity issues or on academic issues, I think we'll have to go back to what is supposed to be almost a by-election.
Okay,
We'll have to go and do nominations afresh and start afresh and put a new date for election.
Joshua Kipto finally joins us. Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
You okay?
Very okay.
Okay, so we're looking at IEBC clearing aspirants this morning, and there's one particular case that stands out, Wycliffe Oparanya. Remember the Senate hearing the other day, and we had the IEBC, and we had representation from the office of DPP, and they were saying he should not get cleared, he should not run for a public office. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's going to get cleared?
He will get cleared if the rest have been cleared and been issued with the go-ahead by IEBC. I don't think he will be stopped, and this just shows where the problem lies. The problem per se does not lie with IEBC. It's a process that was to be undertaken by a multi-agency. There's only one window still remaining. IEBC has made it clear that they have received formal communication from the EACC about a number of individuals. They will still get such information from other entities, but bottom line, I still think it is too late in the game, and IEBC will lack the ability and the might to stop such a person, because look at the timing and where we are as regards the nomination process. And then there's the legitimacy question. If others have been able to go through, others with questionable and even tangible reason to be bad have not been bad, it will be difficult to bar Oparanya. But I would wish to look at it from a positivist perspective. In what way? Even if IEBC declares that they are barring someone, let that person go to court, and possibly they'll get orders to compel the IEBC to allow them submit their papers, but the message would have sunk in. So if IEBC can even try, even if they know, for example, that one can still go to court and get an order, better it be that way, so that it will be seen that they tried. Despite,
at least they tried.
They tried. That should be the main thing.
So basically, the list that was given by civil societies and all this noise that everyone is making about certain aspirants.
A journey begins with one step. Let's look at it that way. For once, we've seen proactive entities. The civil society has given their list. We have these entities giving their report. Let us start from there, and we make lessons out of that. Despite the timing,
don't you think we're learning the lessons a little too late?
No problem. In Kenya, that's how we get things done. Institutions are moribund. So it is our way of doing things. It's a fact that we are delayed, but we have to do something. We have to try. Chapter 6 is not just a chapter for the sake of being in the Constitution. It should be implemented. Parliament failed in the first instance. They gave us a watered-down a piece of legislation, but let IEBC start the process. Let them show that from now henceforth they take seriously such complaints. Let them bar, let a person go to court, get an order, but let IEBC exonerate itself by saying, we tried.
So Parliament failed? So now we're looking
institutions
at the IEBC.
Also have been timid. Then we lump the whole thing to IEBC. So we let IEBC struggle with that ghost.
So we're actually blaming them for something.
Of course, we will blame them. It's easy to blame them. Everyone will blame them.
Kavins?
I think there is nothing that stops these bodies from going to court first. But IEBC cannot start acting on allegations brought forward by civil societies and EACC, because EACC is not competent to judge that this person is corrupt. They can only get you as a suspect, take you to court, then the court will find you guilty or not guilty. Once that happens, then IEBC can now act. However, we still have time. We have about 2 months. It is enough time for anybody to be declared unfit to run for office. But for court processes of finding somebody guilty for a criminal offense or any other economic offense, I think the time is short. These people who have been accused of economic offenses, corruption and the rest, they will run, they will become what they want to become. The only people that can be blocked out are those with with fake academic papers, because that will only
Yeah, that
take...
one now, no one can help
Yes.
you. It's either you have it or you don't have
Or
it.
you
But
don't
Yangi
have
says it's either you have your papers or you don't. There's no in between.
Yeah.
Okay, people. Yesterday we had Madaraka Day celebration in Nyeri.
Yeah.
And the whole celebration was watered down by one thing, just one. At some point, social media went crazy over the fact that Raila Odinga, A, was not acknowledged, B, was not given a chance to address the gathering. What are your thoughts? Kipto?
A quick one. Madaraka Day is a national day. Let us take there. It was not a campaign period. It was a national holiday. That's why all of us were not at work, all of us were glued in our television set. So you'd understand the expectation. Secondly, the president has been on the forefront talking about national unity.
Yeah.
And national unity can be symbolic. There's few token things you do that conveys that message. If you only read a speech about national unity and you fail to justify by just a few things, like for example, rarely do you find the opposition going and being party to a meeting that is generally a government meeting, where at the end of the day, one, I wouldn't have a problem with Uhuru extolling all the virtues and the good things the government has done. There's no problem. It is within his right. But when you have a forum where the opposition leader has decided to come and just say, for this national holiday, I will be here, I will support my country, I'll be here with the entire government, the least you could expect, I would even just expect them just to mention him. They didn't mention. So it appeared to be some form of a choreographed snub, which it has turned out to be negative. In fact, it has taken away all the good things about the celebration.
Yes.
And then, in fact, what again worsened the case was the manner maybe it was conducted. Maybe the organizers can answer for that. If you look at the comments, it ended up being as if the celebration was a local event. And you know, all Kenyans were watching the same event. It ended up being a local event. The MC and everything was done in mostly a bit of local dialect. So you'd feel, so you can imagine when you mix the two, where the opposition guy or the main contender, and you know, we are not asking that it is his right to be recognized, but what you would expect, I can imagine the positive vibe that would have gotten out of that function, that the president acknowledged.
This gentleman
Why
is
do we
here.
forget that this guy won by, or in fact got 50% of the votes cast in 2013. That is enough to show that he is not just any other person. And you know, I could see argument from MPs, mostly from the Jubilee side, saying that Duale was there, he didn't talk. I was there, he didn't talk. You don't compare an MP with just let us. It is like I saying I was there, I was not given a chance. Who am I
listen,
to
we're
him?
going to have this conversation in a bit. Allow me now to cross over to Kisumu. Anyang' Nyong'o has also presented his papers to the IEBC. He's on the gubernatorial race. Let's listen in a little bit to what he had to say.
The Independent Election and Boundaries Commission for a job well done and a spirit of dealing with the candidates which is commendable. My deputy and I, Dr. Matthew Owili, and the whole of my team, which includes the Deputy Governor of Kisumu, as you see, Madam Ruth Odinga, we are all very happy that this day has come and has been successful. My wife is here, Dorothy, and my family, Junior and Zawadi, I don't know where they are. And we as a family are also very grateful to the people of Kisumu that we have all come together to make sure that we have an election that is going to be free and fair, and where we are going to adhere strictly to the code of conduct that we have signed. One of the things in the code of conduct is that we must respect each other, make sure that we campaign on issues that do not antagonize unnecessarily our competitors, and let the court of justice and of choice among the people of Kenya and among the people of Kisumu decide who will be their next governor. I am happy today that we are going to tour Kisumu and that we are going to thank the people of Kisumu for having nominated us to this position, and our party ODM and our coalition NASA and our party leader and candidate for the presidential elections, Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, all of whom are going to be committed to a fair and fair election, and we hope that the Jubilee government will adhere to the Constitution and the principles of fair play. We did see there yesterday in Nyeri that the Jubilee government has already decided to abrogate the Constitution and turn Madaraka Day into a party issue. Madaraka Day is a national day for the people of Kenya. I was there on December 12, 1963, when we got independence. I was part of the choir from Alliance High School and Alliance Girls High School, which sang the national anthem for the first time when the Union Jack was being lowered and the national flag of Kenya was being raised. It was a moment of joy as we got self-rule that we shall all determine our future with peace and liberty and justice as our defender. And I do hope that what happened in Nyeri yesterday and what happened in Mombasa the other day is not going to be the attitude and practice of Jubilee as we go to the election, and that certain candidates will be excluded for certain events simply because of partisan political reasons. And they have appealed to the people of Kenya to reject in total the partisan attitude of the government to national days and the partisan attitude of the government to implement in the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. I thank you very much.
Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has just presented his papers to the IEBC. He hopes to be the next governor, Kisumu County, unseating Jack Ranguma. Let's see how that goes. Remember, Jack Ranguma is on record saying he was rigged out of the party primaries. And of course, basically saying he will run as an independent. Let's wait and see how that plays out in Kisumu. But Anyang' Nyong'o, touching on a conversation we were just having here in studio, he says yesterday the Madaraka Day celebration were turned into a party issue. And probably, let me pick the mind of Kavins Owidi and Joshua Kiptohor in studio with me. Kavins, did that look like a party issue at some point?
Kipto has already spoken on some issues I thought about, but now let me take on the political aspect of this. First of all, it is now clear to the whole country that the very reason why this thing was migrated from Nairobi to Nyeri was so that the president can have his own time, nobody else. Because if you are in Nairobi, definitely the Nairobi governor, who is not Jubilee, would have been in attendance and definitely would have spoken. So this thing, to convert it to a Jubilee thing, it had to be taken into the center of Jubilee's stronghold. But also, the advisors of the president got it all wrong. You remember, after the last general election, CORD leader Raila Odinga was very low, and even his strongholds were not keen on him. But when the president started mistreating him, to an extent of even denying him VIP treatment at the airport, all his constituents were radicalized again into the fanatical following that has always been there. What this thing is going to bring into this country is people are going to sympathize with Raila. And everybody who's been thinking or sitting on the fence is going to go back to him. Because what the president is trying to do is visible from very far. So I think they got it all wrong. And Raila is going to have his fanatical following one more time.
In fact, yes.
Joshua?
Based on how the event was conducted, if the presidential handlers thought that they would earn goodwill, it's lost. Fine, it will consolidate his area, which doesn't change anything because that is already his area. So you can imagine the manner of conversation. If you pick out the conversation and even the comments on Twitter, it was like the rest of the Kenyans were saying, we have to watch this Madaraka Fete using a translator. That's number one. So that's if for example, your PR person was there, that's a minus. Secondly, the opposition leader is there, not mentioned, not acknowledged, even some token, like I would expect for PR purposes, just say hi to him. nothing happened. In fact,
Oh yeah, just acknowledge. Oh yeah, by the
he ended
this
up
gentleman is here behind us.
exiting using the back exit,
Yeah.
while the president and the deputy using the other one. So if you add them up together, the end product is that the only conversation now about that feat was about Raila.
By the way,
so it
no one
builds
is
him-
even talking about what the president
it
said.
doesn't
and what
talk.
the deputy
In fact, no
president
one talks
said.
about it. And
Yeah.
importantly, as he says, there is something about politics, emotions and sympathy. Now, he went there and he was just calm.
And it was just
He
calm.
said nothing, just sat there. Now that's a plus. It always happens. Now you see, and voters will say, okay, this guy has no problem. Why would they even if you look at the comments, even from people from Central Kenya, they were saying that was mishandled. If it was to be done well, just a token of appreciation, just acknowledge him, nothing more. And it helps because it would portray the president being a gentleman. It even portrays the idea of national unity, that we are one in such a national forum. We choose to side with the national story and we do away with the party politics because
Actually,
the campaign periods are here.
I remember someone on Twitter said, this was the one chance that the president had to tell the country that we are unified. Why? It's under 67 days to the general election. This is the one time both of them were attending a public function. That is the one time he had to let him talk. Both of them had to
and reassure the country that
yes.
we are just competing, but we are the same. We want and we mean well for the country.
Because both of them have
that
huge
was lost.
following,
So at the end of the day, I would think the biggest beneficiary, in fact, the snubbing works well for the opposition because they are okay. Now, they can easily go outside the Jubilee stronghold and say, you saw what happened. We were made to feel that we are not party to the entire national conversation.
Okay, so the other thing that I also saw on social media, and I was actually watching the whole celebration in Nyeri. At some point, the MC and a couple of leaders spoke in their mother tongue, that is Kikuyu. And a lot of Kenyans on social media are saying they felt absolutely left out. You don't do that at a public function, and especially Madaraka Day.
True, Linda. Actually, when you sit at your house on a holiday to watch it on TV because it has been taken away maybe from the capital city, and then at one point you can't understand what is going on, then you hear later the president come and say he wants a united country. He wants a peaceful elections. And you remember also the previous day he had blocked Joho from attending
that's
national
another conversation
function.
we're about to have again.
A national function. So it's becoming a trend. He wants to have a country of his own, and his supporters only. If you are not his supporters, you don't understand his language, then you are not part of any national function.
So this is me defending the president and his people.
Correct.
Fine. Raila Odinga was there. He was invited. But the mere fact that they invited him,
I don't think he was invited.
You think he just went there on
No,
his
they
own?
went there. I think the opposition had put it in their calendar that they will be in Nyeri. In fact, I expected the entire team to be there.
Fine.
Yeah.
So they're already there.
Yeah.
By the fact that he's there and he's part of the celebration, wasn't that enough?
It was enough, no problem about that. But we are saying it was discretional. Question that you've asked is, if you were the president, what was the best you would do? What symbolic value would it have been if you introduce and let him even greet the crowd? What symbolic gesture? What positive vibe would have come out of that as a president? It will be big. Then compare with now the negative story that comes out of it, that he was snubbed, he was not acknowledged, he was never given a chance to speak. So you just mix the two. It was discretional, it was not a right, it was not written anywhere, it was up to the protocol guys. But if you are to ask, what would be the best idea? And between now and August, we don't have any other national celebration.
Yeah.
It's only after August that's when we'll have Jamhuri and Mashujaa Day. By then, that will be a different administration.
Yeah.
Linda, it reminds me of a function I attended with the Nairobi Governor, Dr. Evans Kidero. He was invited as a guest of honor to an Anglican church function in Ruai. After everybody was seated, the speeches were about to begin. Peter Kenneth walks in. All the seats are covered. Kidero actually removed his own PA was sitting next to him to go and sit back so that Peter Kenneth can have the seat. And then the protocol now was changed. He actually handed over Peter Kenneth the mic now to even speak first. So is this case.
So what you're saying, it was not Raila's right to address the crowd.
It was not a right.
But the president should have
been
acknowledged
magnanimous enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because even though he didn't do that, he should have also remembered that he is going to speak last, just in case there's anything Raila would speak speak which he doesn't like,
He can counter.
He can always counter.
Yeah.
He had the opportunity, the right of reply. He was the only one there who has the right of reply to every statement made at that function.
Okay.
Maybe a quick answer on the issue of use of vernacular. It wasn't wrong, for example, for the entertainment to be in local. There's some rich value that it is within a locality, let them do that. Except when it came to addressing, because we just need to be cognizant. Like, it's like you now running your show on mother tongue, yet your audience is national in nature. Again, that's a minus, because if they knew this is a Madaraka Day celebration, and Kenya, you know, it's a culture. Even if you don't go to the stadium, the rest of us always follow that. So you sure it ticks us negatively when we can't follow and listen.
Okay, so at least Raila went to the celebrations in Nyeri. But a day before, Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho was barred from attending the unveiling of the SGR in Miritini. And Joho was very visibly upset about that. Kavins, let me begin with you. What are your thoughts about the fact that Joho was barred from even attending that function?
I think
then you can play some bite. Can we have what Joho said yesterday? Okay, let's listen to what Joho, just before you get there, let's listen to what Joho had to say yesterday when he was barred from attending President Uhuru Kenyatta's SGR launch in Miritini. We understand that security officers kept him off that function. Let's listen in a bit.
Stopped before I reached at the main event. So what is this protocol? The protocol is being stopped by the police, which were very friendly, and they told me that Governor Pole, unajua sisi ni kama wewe peane amri kwa inspectorate. Kama amri kwa siku itaisha.
And no Kenyan should be barred from attending. Hassan Joho is a governor in the government of Kenya. He's leading one of the 47 county governments in the country. And this project was being launched in his own county. So he should actually have been there with the president. He's the one who should have actually first welcomed the president. It's unfortunate that on such a day, the governor is being barred from even attending. And I'm sure that Governor Joho was basically going to behave responsibly. He's going to make a statement-like statement welcoming this project. Because we in ODM, in NASA coalition, welcome this project.
The only advice I can give to Joe, don't go to the media to tell them that you want to be part of the program. I hope Joe has the capacity to understand how these events are organized, including in his own office. If today I said I want to be part of his breakfast tomorrow, to you here, I'm not sure I'll be giving very useful information.
Was I going to a wedding? Was it somebody's wedding or somebody's house? First of all, they even put up a whole advert. A whole advert in the newspaper. Wakialika wa Kenya, what is this protocol? The question you need to ask them is whether wao walifuata hii protocol.
Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho, that was yesterday. He was quite upset. Kavins, what are your thoughts?
First of all, you remember, this is not the first thing this is happening.
This is the second time.
But the president also needs to understand that whenever anybody, any public officer goes to a function where the president is, first of all, they surrender all their staff, including the bodyguards. So Joho would have been there alone. If there is any offense that Joho was going to commit, the law is right there. They would arrest him and take him where he's supposed to go. But if there was anything Joho is going to say that the president doesn't like, he has the right of reply because he speaks last. He would respond to Joe, unless he doesn't want Joe to reveal any truth in public where he is. You know, truth said in your face is a very strong truth.
But like you say, he always has the last word. So
yes, he always has the last word. In fact, in this case, Joho would have probably even spoken first. Then they would have spoken thereafter and countered whatever nonsense he would say or whatever sense he would say. But this is just keeping the truth away from the people. It means there was some truth Joho was going to say that they didn't like the public to hear on national TV there and then live.
Crypto?
My answer would be simple. Every time the president goes to Mombasa, I always feel Joho looks forward to that. Because it's like the president always campaigns for Joho.
I am yet to understand what the problem is within this
look here,
two. Yeah.
You can actually anticipate the nature of the reaction. In what way? You know, the sympathy and the goodwill Joho earns out of such spat is significant. I feel, if not for these happenings, because this should be the third time, if not for this, I would think Joho would be facing serious competition. But at the moment, you know, the custodians would look at this guy and say, this is the guy. If he can face off the president until they fear him, until they block him when they come here. Again, you should also look at it this way. You know, the president is the president of the entire republic. He has a right to be anywhere and everywhere. He's like the father of the nation. I wouldn't, if, for example, I was an advisor, I wouldn't think that works. It doesn't add anything to them. In fact, anytime a small person fights with a bigger person, even if a smaller person will be beaten but gets off with some bloody face on the other opponent, the smaller guy goes away with the positive information. So in this extent, leave alone even the talking that my panelist is saying, even just allowing him to be there, they had still had the right of not allowing him to speak. Because I'm sure when it comes to protocol, that has already been figured out. So even just allowing him to come. And in fact, even the president would have made fun about it, that, in fact, the governor is here. But he's here and we want him to see. Just that.
We want him to see what we are doing.
It's a plus. Yes. So at the end of the day, I always feel either it's by design or whatever, they keep campaigning for Joho. So in fact, Joho is at home. Because at this point...
In other words, Joho is just waiting. Okay, so when is the next time he's coming?
Yeah, if the president comes again, they snap and they block him, it's a plus. In fact, because you can anticipate how the Mombasa politics now will play out.
Yeah.
He can easily go tell people that, you see, I speak out the truth that even the president
fears. And that is why they keep blocking me.
They keep blocking. In fact, they can't allow me. And, you know, I think the former Prime Minister said it well, that, look here, he's the governor of Mombasa, and it would only be fair to let him even invite the president. And I don't think, maybe we wouldn't be privy to that information as to what Joho would have said, but by virtue he was there and is the host, generally, it's a plus. It's like a different president coming in here. We don't say that it's a must, it's a right for the president to be there, and that... Like if the president comes to a county, the governor has to welcome, but it's just decorum. Okay,
listen, people, there's a group of women that were part of the entertainment team that was there yesterday at Madaraka Day celebrations. The funny bit about this, and why I want to take you there now, is because these women say they have not been paid. So they're now camping at the provincial offices waiting to be paid. I understand they're currently being addressed. Could you listen in a little bit what's going on?
Katika nchi hii. Na ilifanyika vizuri sana jana. So tuendelee namna hiyo kwa amani. Tuhubiri amani. Kama akina mama sisi tunajua kwamba bila amani hakuna mahali tunaenda. So tuhubiri amani hata wakati wa kampeni hizi. Tufanye kampeni zetu kwa njia ya amani. Tuchague watu kwa njia ya amani. Hakuna vita. Fujo ni ya nini? Hakuna haja. Hakuna haja. Tuamue tukate kauli hapa. Si ndio? Si mnaona bila amani amkulala nyumbani jana. So tuweke hii amani ambayo tunatoka nayo hapa. Mimi nawaambia kwa heri na wapatieni amani na nawahakikishia kwamba tutafanya kazi pamoja kuhakikisha kwamba hiyo amani ambayo tumekata kauli hapa itasambaa katika kaunti hii, na kwa sababu ndio headquarter ya hii region, ya hili eneo, isambae katika zile kaunti zingine. Si nyinyi mmetoka kaunti hii peke yake. Tusambaze. Ianze hapa. Vile ile baraka yote tuliletewa na rais na wageni wake zisambae kutoka hapa. Hiyo si jambo rahisi. Si jambo dogo hilo. Sio dogo, na tulitoboa vizuri sana. Okay? So vile mmeketi kwa vikundi, tutawapanga hivyo, ndio pia mfanye tu kwa njia ya upole. Kila mtu atapata haki yake. Tujipeleke tu polepole na tuende nyumbani kwa amani. Na nataka kama wale wako na kalamu, chukua namba yangu na wapatie saa hii. Ukiona jambo lolote tafadhali piga tu simu, jambo lolote lile.
Mwambie rais tunampenda sana na hatuna ubaya na yeye. Tumeshukuru sana wa mama.
Atapokea sana. Otherwise rais amefurahi, amewashukuru sana kwa vile mlivyowapokea. Namba yangu ni 0722 Wale wanayo, wale hawana tutasambaziana. 0722 84.
Okay, that is the Central Regional Coordinator, Ann Ngetich, addressing a group of women who camped at her office asking for their payment for being part of the entertainment team that entertained Kenyans yesterday during the Madaraka Day celebrations. I have Kavins Owede and Joshua Kipto with me in studio. Kavins is laughing his head off. Kavins, what are your thoughts?
I'm just remembering that action speaks louder than words.
Yeah.
When you go to a public place and you tell the people how you love them, how you are working for them, how you are providing everything for them, how the government is working for them, then you can't pay them little work that they have worked for. Then, it's not what you say, it is what you do. Look at what they have done to those ladies. They had even planned that today I was going to buy unga because I've not been able to afford it, but now the money didn't come at the end of the day. In fact, I heard this verbatim on radio. Some of them were saying they did not even eat that day. Even those who are fasting in the day were not able to get food in the evening. So it was very painful for me to listen to them. I'm even glad you have brought this. Now, this is what is called action speaks louder than words.
Maybe it is, from my little knowledge and experience, I've seen such happening. When such events happen or where politicians are involved, citizens always have that apprehension that if the event ends and you are not paid what you had been promised to be paid, it always becomes a problem to get your dues.
Yeah.
Even in the legal field, for us lawyers, when we deal with politicians, we are always worried of offering service before pay. So you would understand, and it's a normal occurrence. I would be appreciative as to how the lady administrator has handled them.
She's very professional.
She's been very good and explained to them. So it happens, with politicians, you never trust them. They can give you a word, but you can never bank it until you see the cash. So you would understand why the ladies are. And I would suspect they are apprehensive by virtue of the fact that, the government came down to Nyeri, they are back in Nairobi. So you would understand their apprehension.
Clearly,
because
we're not going to see
their fear would be, they came and went, so how will we get our due, something like that. And it happens, it's across board. In fact, for the politicians, you never trust them until they pay.
Okay. So that is a conversation for another day. We were on Ali Hassan Joho, Mombasa governor, being barred from attending the president's function. And Kipto was saying probably Joho just hopes and prays this guy should come next week. The next week,
anytime they come.
Just before the election.
Even 2 weeks before election, they come by him or even arrest him.
He doesn't even need to campaign, does he?
That's it. It comes to an end. It always helps him. There's no way the Jubilee side will gain out of that. Nothing. Especially in the courts. Now that they are so... You've seen how they've been very active in the courts. They are trying to get more votes than they got in 2013.
Actually, both sides, both Jubilee and NASA.
No, but you see, for NASA, it is them to defend the turf because in 2013 they swept cost nice. But Jubilee is now working hard to at least slice off, even if they'll not get the majority, if they can get better than what they got in 2013, it helps them. So with such issues, I don't think that is a plus towards getting that. It is a negative to them.
Okay, so Jubilee may be trying to get the numbers more than what they got in 2013.
Yes.
But what is happening to Joho, that isn't helping them at all.
It doesn't help. In fact, it is a sideshow that distracts. If that becomes the story, I don't think it's a plus for government.
Does NASA have to worry about its numbers?
Definitely, they have to get worried on the sense that Jubilee has really been camping at the cost. So the opposition can't just wish away the power of an incumbency to, they have really camped there. And then maybe the defection of the Kwale governor, as well as Taita Taveta, quite a number of those ODM leaders went to Jubilee. So those can't be wished away. That's why I'm saying the steps Jubilee makes towards getting at least 20-30% from the vote is not helped by such sideshows regarding Joho, because it solidifies the idea that the Wabara people come down here, they lord over us. Joho can really twist that nicely and say, you see,
and trust
they would
me,
come.
Joho can really twist that.
Say something like that, and that sells to the locals. So if you avoid that sideshow and just concentrate what they have been doing, maybe it can earn them returns.
Jubilee campaign machinery in Mombasa is a self-cancelling machine.
Yeah.
It earns 3 votes today, it cancels 4 the next day. What they are doing is now they are radicalizing their enemies. There is nothing as important in politics like when you have a radicalized support.
Yeah.
I want to give you an example of Mrs. Clinton and Trump. Trump radicalized his support. He gave them something to work for, something to look forward for, something great that was going to happen.
Make America great again.
Yeah.
there are two ingredients for radicalization. Show the people the enemy and be the one that is going to protect them from that enemy. And then show them where you are taking them after you have decimated the enemy. So now, Joho, from his side, they can already see who is the enemy. And there's a persecution here. So there's an enemy, and that's where they are going. Once the enemy is decimated, they will have everything they want. So this is called radicalization. Even what happened in Nyeri is radicalization. Okay. You cannot get a radical following without showing people an enemy.
Listen, I need to cross over to Peter Kenneth, who's currently addressing the press. He was presenting his papers to the IEBC. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peter Kenneth there receiving his certificates from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. He now joins the list of candidates who will be fighting for that seat, of course, hoping to unseat Evans Kidero as the next governor of Nairobi. So you have Sonko, you have Miguna, you have Peter Kenneth, and of course you have Evans Kidero himself as well. Some of the candidates that have now been cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to fight for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. Peter Kenneth alongside his running mate as well. Let's see how this plays out. Like I mentioned, the gloves were officially off yesterday. Mike Mbuvi Sonko making very serious allegations against Kidero, and Kidero as well just making it clear that Sonko does not have the necessary experience and indeed the expertise to run the county of Nairobi. So those are live pictures that we're getting for you from Kasarani this morning. We should be able to speak to our Patrick Amimo any moment from now, just before we wrap this bulletin, just to see whether or not we can speak to Peter Kenneth now that he has been cleared by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. People, you're watching News Center. Thank you for staying with us. Let me take a break. I'll be back in a few minutes.